the online news website. Craig Kopitas of Quartz, the Atlantic Monthly's business website. Agnès Michel, economist with Terra Nova. And joining us from London is Jan Randolph of IHS Global Insight. Jan mentioning how the whole issue within this issue of Bernard Arnault, it brings up that of taxes and where to pay them and how to pay them. Financial Times Brussels correspondent Peter Spiegel tweeted the following earlier in the day. Is Arnault's move to Belgium for tax reasons a threat to the Eurozone tax harmonization? European Commission spokesperson Pia Arenkilde won't say, I tried. Well, the French finance minister says, Pierre Moscovici, saying he's going to work on a tightening of tax loopholes and a review of treaties with neighboring countries that are sometimes seen by many as tax havens.
This program to fight tax evasion is part of the proposed finance law reforms. We've spoken about this already during the campaign, and we might have to revisit it in the years to come. It's an international problem. Tax treaties with countries like Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland should, I think, be renegotiated in the coming years.
Pierre Aski, I've heard finance ministers, not just in France, say that before a lot, that there'd be a tax harmonization, and it somehow never happens.
I think it's almost impossible. I don't believe that Moscovici will be more successful than his predecessors in getting this tax harmonization, because there are too many interests at stake. And it's like what I was saying earlier about the moralization of capitalism. It's nice words, it's nice ambitions, but the reality, the lobbying, the Bernard Arnault of this world are so powerful that I'm afraid the national interest rivalries are also very much at stake. I mean, Luxembourg or Switzerland want to remain attractive for those people who are trying to move out of their own countries. So I'm afraid this is the prospect of this tax harmonization is very limited.
Agnès Michel?
I wouldn't be that sure. I mean, we have two problems. We have those tax havens. They require unanimity in Europe and United States to have a strong politics on them. And we have the fiscal harmonization within Europe. And within Europe, a few months ago and 1 year ago, we thought that we wouldn't mention anyhow the mutualization of the debts, and we are talking about that right now. So I think we are progressing in that direction. So I think that fiscal harmonization is gonna happen. I won't say in a few months, but I'm quite optimistic that it's gonna happen, because it creates a difference too high between countries that are trying to have a common currency.
Integrated economy.
So it creates a competition that it's just not bearable to stand the crisis. So I think that we're going to have this harmonization path by path, but we're gonna have it. And then, if we are strong in Europe in this area, I think that we will have the strength to negotiate with some of the countries. But I don't think it's gonna happen from scratch. But I think we are going towards it, and we should be more optimistic.
All right, the glass is half full for you. In part one of our discussion, Pierre Aski mentioning how the big point of discord, and the one that's attracted a lot of attention around the world, is the campaign pledge by the new French president to tax all income above 1 million euros at a 75% rate. Well, when it came to Bernard Arnault, rushing to his aid and to attack that measure is the head of France's opposition conservatives.
The real question today is how a government can manage to create a 75% tax rate that confiscates so much, which is the highest tax rate in the world, for no reason other than ideology, and completely ignoring those who have created large industries, such as Bernard Arnault and others have.
That was the reaction of Jean-François Copé. The French president defended that measure. Here's what he said in primetime television on Sunday evening. François Hollande promised what he dubbed an unprecedented 30 billion euro bout of belt tightening. There would be 10 billion in budget cuts, 10 billion in additional taxes on businesses, and an additional 10 would come from households. That means taxation in one form or another, including that 75% tax on revenues over €1 million.
It's an exceptional contribution time-wise because it will only occur during the recovery plan. This contribution will do its part in the recovery plan that I've set up, and once we are in a better place, and I think that will happen in 2 years' time, then we won't need to keep up these measures. But it's very important that it exists.
Exceptions for artists, sports stars?
No exceptions.
All right, François Hollande making that pitch. You convinced by it, Jan Randolph?
Well, I think the issue about Arnold is a bit of a red herring. I don't know what the French metaphor is. It's a false red flag, really. And we're talking about personal income and the marginal rate of that. I think most of his businesses will be taxed at the appropriate corporate rates anyway, whether he has Belgian nationality, French nationality, or Martian nationality. The French state could go and seek the income earned in the country of France and rightfully expect the taxes to be paid on that. I think the bigger issue of taxation, I think because we've all been through this financial crisis and are still going through it, we've got an interesting constellation of forces now, for once, in alignment. All state government budgets are under pressure, including the US. And the nooses are tightening around the likes of Switzerland. Switzerland has had to change its laws. It is under pressure from the German inland revenue, the French inland revenue, and the US inland revenue. But I think much more deeply in terms of the Eurozone crisis is it's not so much what is the right level of taxation, is what do we get with our taxes? Do we create a society where everyone pays their taxes because they recognize that the taxes are well spent? And in that sense, the higher taxation is more acceptable. You can see the bang for buck. You have a productive, efficient state spending your taxes sensibly and everyone benefits. That is a buy-in society, whereas what we have in Southern Europe is a buy-out. Everyone's evading. In Greece, the biggest problem is the professional classes. They're the experts at tax evasion. And you can't run a government if you've got the broad middle classes and professional classes constantly evading taxes. No wonder they've got a big debt problem on their hands. Now, and I think the key question is, how do we create this buy-in society where people willingly and cooperatively buy into paying their taxes because they recognize the value they get from those taxes? Those are much more important issues, I think.
And Craig Kapitas, as the saying goes, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Jan Randolph making the point that there is this opportunity perhaps to harmonize things.
Yeah, it'll be quite hard to find any politician who's ever rolled back a tax increase once it's come down the road, as Hollande's promising here. Jan brings up, I think, he's laid out the fuse to the key issue. There's no question that Arnaud is a convenient whipping boy here. Fine, they're going to play their little patriotic game. What you have on this tax and investment issue is a real hard cheese core of economics. People with lots of money and businessmen find socialist economies to be confiscatory for the simple reason that they don't feel the tax, and I've done stories on these people, they don't feel, rightly or wrongly, that the tax revenues are either being used or managed properly. They look at a country like France and they see that it's now approaching 60% of salaries here coming from public sector jobs that create nothing. Now, what Jan pointed out, and what you were pointing out, Pierre, about compassionate capitalism, don't ever forget that the socialist bulwark in this country was created as much by the left as it was by the right. I don't think there's anyone in France, myself included, that does not love things like our healthcare system and many of the social safety nets we have here. They're terrific, but they need to be chomped. So going back to what Jan said, what is the discussion going forward? Let me use this term that the kids use when they're doing computers. We need to reboot capitalism. Capitalism 2.0. That's what this is all about. Because the fact is that if you keep going down a hard right society economically, you're going to end up with, I mean, if you go to the extreme as was done in Chile, you're going to end up with Chicago's school, Milton Friedman kind of economics. If you go to the extreme left on this, you are going to end up with some kind of Herbert Marcusean socialist society. And what a lot of businessmen here who I speak to and interview who want to invest in France believe right now, rightly or wrongly, is they honestly feel that France is being taken down a Marxist path. We're not there yet. I know. I am not.
Come on, please.
Please, no. Perception.
Okay.
The perception.
If
perception
business
is.
thinks Hollande is going down the Marxist way, and Hollande is the Herbert Marcuse of the 21st century, I think you have to go back into books again and understand the reality of the world. You have at this moment a government which is the most business-friendly government that you can imagine on the left in Europe. You have to get that into your mind, because if you don't get that government, you're going to have what? You're going to have Mélenchon. If Hollande is Marxist, what is Mélenchon? Is Bakunin with a Kalashnikov in the mouth? I mean, this is, you have to be reasonable. A lot of things, very sound things, have been said, in this debate about what is tax for. Why should people pay tax? And I think one of the reasons that made consensus in this country for a lot of time is that we get for what we pay. We have a very good health system. We used to have a very good education system. We have the TGV. We have good communications. We have
nuclear
a
reactors.
lot of things that were attached to this tax system. Today, this consensus is eroded, because I think a lot of people are feeling that the public service has been going down, that a lot of things are, there's a lot of crisis also in the minds in this country. And I think what this government should do, and I hope they will do, is restore confidence in the public service, is show people that every euro they put in their taxes is usefully used. Whether it comes from an average citizen or from Mr. Bernard Arnault. And it's done in a just way, because I think the feeling of justice is not something that is attached to Marxism. It's something that is attached to humanity. And I think you have it in the US the same way as you have it here, that people want the society to be fairly treated.
When you're sitting interviewing a major investor, perception is everything. We can argue, have this debate for a week, but it's the perception. And
let's talk about perception right now. And this is a point that was picked up on by several of the newspapers this Monday, commenting on this whole affair. François Hollande, savvy politician, you don't get to be elected president without being one. Several newspaper columnists saying he's been too clumsy in courting French business leaders, and he's got very few close allies in the boardrooms. Far fewer, for instance, than Barack Obama. But he's working on it. These are images from last Friday that you're seeing. These were pool images from the presidential palace. You could see the socialist president's trip there to the Evian water factory in the French Alpine spa of the same name. Where the press were kept away was from a dinner of Franco-German business leaders that followed, where Hollande apparently drew hearty applause for his praise of the German model of competitiveness. Basically, what the papers were saying, several of them, Le Monde this morning, it was one of the other papers that was saying the same thing, was that there's a bit of a learning curve on the part of Hollande when it comes to getting these business leaders on board, and that, in fact, there are these dog whistle messages that are starting to come out. Do you agree?
I definitely agree that it's a good thing to talk with the entrepreneurs. I mean, we are one society. We don't have the employees on one side and the entrepreneurs on the other side. We have to merge that. We are one society.
Cynics on the far left would go so far as to say you roll back workers' rights any more than you did under New Labour and under in France when the first socialist government came in.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been 30 years ago. I'm sorry, but I'm only 35. So it's not really my generation issue. Putting people face to face, I think that's a little bit archaic. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I mean, you have many people that are creating their small enterprises, and they are not very different for the people that they do employ. It's I think that the issue right now is more on the division is not between who is employee and who is entrepreneur, but we have a category, and Arnaud is quite representative of this category, that is too different from the rest of the population. They live quite on another planet. They don't have the same rule. Oh. They don't pay the same taxes.
Reminds me of the days before the French Revolution, or is that too Anglo of you
Well,
here?
when people
They're
actually
do,
yeah, but when you create this difference, when you think that a certain a few people are actually have the right to live above and the rest of the people, it doesn't work because all human.
The left makes it sound as if Arnaud is not paying his taxes.
But the truth is that we have like 70 or 80 billions of how do you say refunds of taxes in France. It costs a lot. I mean, it's almost the deficit that is going because some people are just having some exoneration on the taxes. And when you see that, it's not very clear. That's why there is a problem of perpetuation, as you said. I'm sorry.
I'm very briefly, because we're almost out of time on
okay, but the thing is that some people do not pay as much as the huge part of the society, and that's what creates these differences, and it's not tolerable for the people, and that's the point.
Jan Randolph, we're out of time. Over in London, is François Hollande viewed as a Marxist?
Yeah, I do think that's a bit ridiculous. He is a left or centre politician, but they can be quite pragmatic. We've had a few ourselves. What worries me about France is ultimately competitiveness. The unit productivity is falling, investment rates falling. People mention about, you mentioned about the falling public services becoming poorer. Well, surely that's because the economy is failing. If you've got a stronger, more vibrant economy, you can afford better public services.
Right, so competitiveness is the issue. We're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, Jan Randolph, but I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Craig Kopitas. I also want to thank Agnès Michel and Pierre Aski. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate.